Okay, great, great. Well, hello, everyone. It's great to see you in person. Welcome to those online. It's my great pleasure to introduce to you one of our visiting scholars who is with us right now, Dr. Mélissa Fortin. Mélissa is an assistant professor at the Université de Québec at Montréal. And she is specialized in accounting, which she's going to talk about today. She's teaching management accounting to future CPA and qualitative methods at the master's level. And her research is about the organizational implications of blockchain technology. Her research activities are focused on management accounting, disruptive technologies, and the accounting profession. And she recently published in the Accounting, Auditing, and Accountability Journal and has several blockchain projects ongoing. She's on the editorial board of the Journal of Information Systems as well. She's also actively involved in business and professional communities. She's a member of several blockchain associations and chair of the Chambre de Commerce de Montréal board, a board member of Montréal Chamber of Commerce, and a board member of Cooperation Finance sector with Desjardins. She's also involved in accounting training for women entrepreneurs in several technology sectors. So without further ado, thank you so much. It's been a great pleasure. I know we're getting to the end of your visit, but it's been so great to have you here. So I'm really looking forward to your presentation today.
Thank you so much for this amazing introduction. So I think my biggest challenge today will be to stay on front of the computer. So there is people online. So I cannot walk in the room, but I don't know for people online if I'm going to be able to stay there. I have a lot of energy. I like to walk and talk. So we'll see for people online. So first of all, a huge thanks to Vicky for having me at the UBC blockchain. All my research is actually about blockchain, and Vicky and I are on the same technical committee for the Standard Council of Canada. But since the last two years, we were not able to meet and chat, and we are working on the same topic. So I just proposed to Vicky to come visit her and the university, to talk about blockchain, because I think we are still not a lot of researchers looking at that kind of stuff. And also I was super inspired by the work of Vicky on blockchain as a woman leader in the field, and about her research too. So again, thanks a lot. Also, thanks to Chang. Chang is not in a room, but I hope he recorded things so he could listen to my comment right there. So thank you, Chang. He asked several emails of me. He helped me to organize the whole thing. So thank you very much. So today, I think I have a little bit quiet, kind of different presentation today for the monthly meeting of the UBC blockchain. I'm going to present a research paper that I just published less than 3 months ago. So it's from my thesis, and my co-author are Erika Pimentel. She's one of my friends too. She's co-author but friend, and she's at Queen's University in the Smith School of Business, and also with Emilio Boulian. He was my supervisor during my thesis, but also a friend. So to John Molson School of Business, where I did my PhD. So what's happening when I want to, usually what's happening with blockchain and the use cases. So, and it's happened to me all the time when I'm sharing with friends, colleagues, people around me that I'm doing research on blockchain. The question I always receive is what? What are you thinking about Bitcoin? What are you thinking about cryptocurrencies? Do you have ever heard about art and NFT and that kind of stuff? But there is so much more than cryptocurrencies with blockchain. So today my presentation is going to be on a different topic that received less attention until now. So it's logistic and supply chain. And as you can see, there is so much possibilities with blockchain. And I think some people in the room are actually looking at healthcare. or publish a book about healthcare. So you will see more and more. I think we will look at blockchain for a different reason than only Bitcoin. So just to be sure that you're following me there, so what is a blockchain technology? So it's a digital ledger that keeps record of all the transactions taking place on a peer-to-peer network. All the information is transferred via blockchain that is encrypted and very occurrence recorded, meaning it cannot be altered. Should I do something?
No, just share the project this so that people online can see the slides.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And share the and project the slides.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could I stop it at the moment for my notes? Or?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Just make
Thank
sure
you.
this is the same.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that. So blockchain technology is also decentralized, so there is no need for any central certifying authority. Another interesting feature with blockchain technology is the fact that it can be used for much more than transfer of currency. We can use it for contract, we can use them for record and other kind of the data that can be shared. And I think the last part of it is really interesting for accounting, because as you probably know, we record financial information. So blockchain have this potential to change the way we process information in accounting. Also, with blockchain, we will have encrypted information that can be shared across multiple providers without the risk of privacy breach. So this is the idea of blockchain. But as you probably know too, there is different type of blockchain. So let's look at them. So one way that I really like to look at blockchain and the type of blockchain is this one. There is so much cluster and category that we could do with blockchain, but one is interesting is this one. So we have permissionless and permission blockchain. So on the left with permissionless, you will find what is called public blockchain. So this is where you have no central authority. So this is exactly the topic of Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, that kind of stuff. You will find those permissionless blockchain. On the middle, you have the hybrid one. So you have some component of the permissionless and permission blockchain. And I think we will see more and more that kind of hybrid blockchain in the future. But for now, my study was about the permissioned one. So I work and look and research and explore all of those private company that implemented blockchain. So the control is really by one authority and also a consortium. So it's controlled by a group. And permission blockchain brings, I think, potential, but also a paradox. So the potential with permission blockchain is the fact that it is more flexible and you can implement them for business problem, for organizational problem. But on the other end, permission blockchain, you have, as you can see on the slide, the control is by one authority or a group of person or of people, and the architecture is decentralized. So you have a decentralized technology and you have a centralization of the control and the power. So you have a huge paradox there. And it's exactly the reason why we choose to look at those permission blockchain. Also, I have my own bias and my own motivation, and I will explain you on the next slide. So I give you again another definition of blockchain. But what is really the context of permission blockchain? And before I continue, I allow questions during my presentation. I think it could be more dynamic if you want to ask questions. So please don't be shy. I cannot talk for 1 hour straight. So please, and whatever the question, I will be happy to have it. So For permission blockchain, there is, and it's for accounting. I will just talk about accounting here. It's maybe a little bit different in management and supply chain area, but there is really a lack of empirical work. So for us in accounting, until maybe the last year, all the paper were conceptual, explaining what would be the potential of blockchain and what is the most irritating thing with that was the fact that with blockchain, the researchers are doing literature review on small amount of paper and doing another literature review on the literature review. So, you know, it's like a vicious circle there that you don't necessarily have new information. So during my thesis, I was really motivated to bring data from empirical case of implementation of blockchain. At the time, we are in 2019, so we are really at the beginning of it. So a lot of people discouraged me to do that, but I was kind of a little bit stubborn there. So I just focused on that, and I finally find cases in Canada that company implemented permission blockchain. So this is my own motivation about this work. And also in accounting, I'm doing research and I'm teaching also management accounting. So my interest is always about what is happening inside a company. So permission blockchain makes a lot of sense with that too. So also with permission blockchain, like I mentioned before, they are closed. You have also another layer, which is the control layer. I'm going to talk about that later. So those kind of blockchain are super interesting. One main feature with blockchain is the fact that they will bring transparency. And when you make visible things that were invisible before, it comes also, it brings also something new. What is we call, and we look on this paper, is accountability. So accountability, you can find a myriad of ways of defining accountability. For some example, Messner suggests that accountability denote the exchange of reason for conducts. Shearer states that accountability always entail and enact intersubjectivity. Roberts, on his side, contends that accountability represents the attitude other towards us. So the outcome, it's also seen as the outcome of the act of rendering an account in sort of the action by a body that claims. So it's really a right of authority, including the rights to demand, answer, and impose sanction. So we travel with all of those definitions, and we use one super specific in our paper to be sure that we grasp what's happening with blockchain. So in the paper, we use the definition that is accountability is really a process of rendering an account. So you can see here really the influence of accounting for sure. And also, we look at it as it includes a mutual expectation of performance between parties and rendering of an account about one's performance. So really the objective with this definition was to look at how these relationship, I'm sorry for people online, how this relationship is constructed and satisfied depends on with whom a duty of accountability exists. So for example, between two individuals with hierarchical relationships, sorry for that, or amongst community members. So really the transparency and making visible that would otherwise remain invisible is often thought as a mechanism of accountability. So that was really the anchor of our studies. Question until now, or? I'm gonna move. You will see later in the results, but in two levels of and the fact that the information blockchain, you can see what the other are doing for the pressure. You need to put good information on it, but it's not. I think this is really the idea of the paper. It's telling we have this utopia that blockchain is perfect and everything is good, but if you put bad information in blockchain, you will have this problem and your accountability there will be absent. So with British blockchain, you need to put other control around that. So the paper was just to pinpoint that exactly. You phrase it differently.
I want to feel that it's trustworthy because we're using a good city space based on this, especially and
but usually, like when we, for example, we are in a network, we're putting information on the system. The fact that I can see what you're doing, and the fact that I'm able to trace that you put this information on the system, I'm looking at you. I have like a role of it, so I'm monitoring what you're doing. So usually it's putting pressure to put on. And also there is some stuff, and it's not on this research, but there is three relationships before we use the blockchain. So if I trust you before, I hope I can continue to trust you. So there is so much thing around that, but I think actually you got the idea.
very good answer. I suppose one question to that. If there are errors made on the blockchain, retract and kind of make some
There are
changes.
programs there blockchain. But it affects other people. But the idea is that traceability of everything, the back and forth. So for some of the network is enough. For some other.
That's what thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, we do. This is more like a response to your question too, so if I may, but.
Sure.
So, my abilities are out of science, and, I have quite an extensive researching just especially. So if you want to understand about. Also, just for everybody's knowledge, there's the International Standards Institution as the a technical paper that explores the issue. Recommendations, emerging from automation and compliance system to ensure that information is reliable. So it's called records management and blockchain and records management, or records and blockchain, I'm not sure. And remember which we decided on first, but that's been an international effort for about 2.5 years now. And it's really good work, so that's something that we share out through the blockchain agencies that are
I'm sure it's very useful for accounting. So
yeah, I think so.
fantastic. I'm going to continue, but please don't be shy to interrupt me. After what's happening for accountability and blockchain. So prior research. Oh, I have a question in the chat. I have the question, where would you see the dominant use in the social context, hybrid perhaps, and generative AI interoperability? So to answer this question from Lynn, until now, the case I saw that they do some kind of hybrid things is on agriculture and also in maritime sector. With AI, they are more efficient to manage information and also goods, and blockchain help to bring the security of the data. So this is a nice way to look at that kind of thing. But I think it's super early. Okay. I answer question online in person. If I continue with this accountability, like I mentioned in blockchain, so prior research has point that the potential way in which blockchain can improve accountability, and also suggesting the only conceptual framework we are aware is Sento Billy and his colleague. There is also Karupu that would demonstrate that blockchain can be used to improve NGOs' accountability by increasing efficiency, accuracy, and auditability of record keeping, performance measurement, and external reporting. But what is interesting on this one is it's not a permission blockchain. On Tima and her colleague, they find that public blockchain eliminate the need of the separation of principal and agent and emphasize the individual accountability. So while the private permission blockchain rely more on a social form of accountability. So one of the significant way blockchain are perceived to provide accountability is by producing a transparent record of all the transactions carried out on the network that is available to all network participants and updated in real time. So this is why we anchor all of these with accountability in this project. So like I mentioned before, there is a paradox between centralization and decentralization with blockchain, but there is also a debate about the transparency. As you could imagine, with permissionless in public blockchain, they are decentralized. So their code are open sources and accessible to the network participant. With the permission and private blockchain, the source of the code and the technology that enable accountability are often opaque on those closed networks. So transparency have a really different meaning. So for all of those things I just mentioned in the last 20 minutes, we propose this research question. So how does permission blockchain enable new accountability relationships? So that was really the question of the paper. Methodology of it. So I'm only doing qualitative research, so I really like to speak with people. So we did interviews there, and also the idea of the project was to explore what's happening on the field. So we did interviews between June 2020 and January 2021 with 28 early adopters of permission blockchain. So they were CEOs, information technology expert, director, blockchain expert. I try also to talk with accounting people, but at the time, the people looking at blockchain were in Big Four, and I wanted to understand what's happening into organization, and their accounting teams are not really involved on those permission blockchain projects. So at the end, I just find that accounting, there is no accountants in those stories. I was really sad about that, but I continue to do my research. So I hope maybe we will have more accountants about that. But I know in the room, you are maybe not that sad about that. So I know I think we are two in accounting, but. Oh, wow. Okay. Yep. 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 Yep.
integrate. Find that it could be.
That's what we should start with for a little bit, that's getting into a whole different technology, but it's, yeah.
Okay, look, into another paper I published with my supervisor and another colleague. I think it's for well, let's start.
And I think we can improve the ethics aspects of blockchain. Just because I don't really understand how blockchain can be a risk to humanity per se, but I know that AI really eliminate the biases and any product that we design as we focus on speed and confidentiality. Accurate information that we are whatever is into the development of the programs and services that is in our best interest.
There is several to answer your question. The main one I have in my head actually is everything we did in the past about regional control that you know well, that I know well, that people know well. I think we need to continue to apply that to the machine. It's not a that you need to control and evaluate this. For sure, you need one of the
There's challenge. I did want to draw attention to the fact that you're using non-existent clearing and then our broad research that has to do with cybersecurity, as well as using blockchain to combat cybersecurity vulnerabilities. Okay, your turn after.
Okay, perfect. So, like I mentioned, we did 28 interviews with those people. The objective was to generate a sample of blockchain user organization considered as early adopter on their fields. It was exploratory, so it goes everywhere. I have different kind of company. I have maritime sector, and it could go to authorship, books. So it's really interesting for that. And most of the interviews were with organizations that have implemented, and they were kind of advanced at the time in the process of implementing blockchain. As you probably know, when we are doing research, we have this kind of thing that we share and put in our paper. So usually, like first round, we find interesting theme, and there I explaining what are those thematic interests like visibility, cost-benefit analysis, blockchain property, relationship, digitalization, and after where a little bit lying there, it's a second round, we find this accountability emerging. The real story is more after 14 times we saw accountability emerge, but this is only for you. I'm giving this information. In a paper, we never put that, but there are no interest, but the real story is that. And we saw this, the relationship between people, the blockchain and all that stuff, and also the off-chain. What's happening off-chain is super interesting here. So it became clear at the time that relationship between accountability and transparency was not straightforward that at the time we could read in the literature. So we settled on accounting to organize our framework, and we reanalyze the data using the selected theoretical framework. So the only lie is about the number of time we did it. So findings. So there is two huge sections on the paper. The first one, we show how permission blockchain is actually helping to simplify business and accounting processes as the management of documentation. And after, we propose a new framework. So I'm going to start with this idea that blockchain help to simplify some process. Some of them are indeed accounting. So first quotes I have here, it's about an interview that report that traceability of a product and the simplification of digital transaction. So what this person shared with us is the fact that with book and authorship in that kind of sector, it allowed author who don't necessarily have the tools to do so to have a traceability of what's happening with their digital books. So then we add other option with blockchain, like for example, the possibility to manage revenue sharing automatically. And so when a book is sold, the author or the publisher who published the book on the blockchain wants to the revenue can be shared automatically with the contributor of the books. So with the blockchain, you can pre-program that kind of stuff, and it's helping them. It's helping the author too and the publisher. So this was one of the example. I talked a little bit about this carrier freight about delivering stuff. So for them, the process was super manual. So the fact that now they can have all the documentation in the blockchain and they are able to trace all the information, it's helping them because at the time before blockchain, they are relying on people memories and the amount of significant dollars for sure financially. And because of the variance of those type of charge can be created. So what's happening there was sometimes a truck was waiting at a very specific place. It was taking, I don't know, 50 minutes, but the person don't remember what's really happening. And so they just fight about all the invoice at the time. So blockchain really helps them to bring this transparency about the delivery process. Also, it helped them about the manual reconciliation. So that was two specific thing that can help those companies. What is the most interesting, I think, about our findings is the fact that we find 3 levers of accountability, and we call them levers to a reference to Simons. So for Simons, it's about control, but he used levers to explain how those different control are necessarily for a company, and they need to be together. So it's exactly the same here for our framework. You need to have a ledger code and people to be sure that you have a great level of accountability. And like I mentioned, those levers are interconnected. So blockchain are often valued to their ability to produce transparency through the visibility of transaction, but we find that with permission blockchain, and I'm sure now you're not surprised when I'm telling you that that is an incomplete view of it. So I will look at every levers, and after I'm going to show you the framework we propose. So with permission blockchain, the relationship reproduced online exists before. So you can imagine a company, they implement blockchain, they had the pre-existing relationship before, and now they just translate it to a blockchain. And also, there is a broader set of pre-existing trusting of human interaction in specific institutional and legal contexts. So let's see the first lever that we propose, what we call ledger. And funny thing, I think Vicky have something similar in her works, but it's called differently. But for today, it's going to be this. So first lever is ledger. So here is a quote from one of the interviewees. So he shared with us that the way they were instituting this blockchain network is you can always get caught. And if you take minutes to track down the fraud, you start doing the right thing. So that is human nature, right? So the ability to see what's happened and see what did what, it's the fear of getting caught. And this kind of blockchain network makes catching people really easier. So it's not that the fraud won't happen, it will happen, but now we can catch them a lot easier. So in seconds instead of months or years. So the idea here with the ledger, and I'm gonna go fast because I can talk about that all day long, but the fact with the lever, it's like, for us, we're seeing this lever as a disclosure device. So you need to have good information to be sure that it's working. But the fact that, like we talked just earlier, the fact that your fear of being found out if you put bad information on the blockchain, it gives you the pressure, the social form of accountability to rely on known network members with relationship off-chain. Because sometimes we can have this utopia that, you know, there is a relationship in blockchain, but you know, with permission blockchain, you know these people, you spoke with them on phone, you know, so you don't want to be find out if you put bad information on the blockchain. So accountability is not the social, but co-created with the help of other participants as validator. So what is interesting with blockchain, as you probably know, you need a consensus when you record a transaction. So there is also this idea that you co-created with the help of other participants, the validation of transactions. So you're accountable for that kind of things that is produced on blockchain. Also, it aims to facilitate trust and honesty. It penalizes the bad actor by making dishonesty too costly there. And the too costly is the relationship. Yep.
There's something that we have to be authentic to identify that this person actually did it, because then if it's a release, how do you really find it? So in our mission, you're you know people.
So the fact that you know people, for example, again, we are all in the huge network of blockchain, and I'm putting bad information, you can track me so fast that I won't do it, you know? And you can imagine that in your life, like, you don't want to give bad information to your friends because you can, you know.
So people were allowed to be authorized and like.
Fantastic. So that was the first levers. We are going really deeper in the paper, but really I'm just giving you the idea there about this lever. So the second one is the code, what we call true code. So here again, another quote that we have from one of the interviews. So we are Hyperledger bias, and in this channel, you have participants, and each of these participants has a certain right of what they can write and what they can read on the blockchain. So basically, it helps to build a governance mechanisms. So of course, essentially all coordinated through the smart contract that can manage all of this. And what is really interesting with the code is the fact that with the code for permission blockchain, you will translate the rules of a sector, rules of business rules that you have in the real life, and you will translate that to a code, to a smart contract that you're going to put on a blockchain. So you really need an algorithmic governance. So the code is transparent, but sometimes you don't want to share all the information about it, and it rely on one programmer or different programmers. So you're relying on, like I mentioned before, those people are not always IT experts. So they could not understand the logic of the source of the code. So they need programmer to do it. So we need humans and programmers to put in place those blockchain. And what is interesting is, if you can imagine, if you put a rules or a business rule in a blockchain and it doesn't work the way you're supposed to work, what will happening? You will probably land into a court of law. You won't resolve that thing on the blockchain. It's going to be off chain. So the code itself is not enough to provide accountability. So it's just a translation of something, these business rules or laws that I'm talking about. There is also what we saw is this idea that Hyperledger Fabric, it's it's an open source software, but we find that there is an illusion of transparency by the lack of know how to evaluate the code, but also sometimes when you're doing, you are on some sector, there is like confidential information that you won't share with everyone. So you will twist the code to be sure that you don't share this information. And now we cannot talk about transparency anymore. So permission blockchain are not, ideal as we can conceive them. Also, like I mentioned earlier, and I will just say last time, any inconsistency of the program code with the current laws may generate conflict between partners, and we need to be reflected the commercial logic into the code. And if we have problem there, the code is not accountable itself. So it's going to be people around. So the code is not enough alone. Last lever is accountability through people. So again, another quote that we have from our interviewee is the fact that such fix can be considered to maintaining accountability amongst the network participant. So here are the quotes. We have created provision wherein you could redact certain transaction. If there is a mistake, that's okay. I mean, you should not be penalized somebody. So you could have a mechanism to roll back the transaction in the ledger. And we are going to enforce a follow-on transaction because whatever reason, that's something that we have to build in the system. And that strikes us a lot. So we realize, and you will, finger crossed, you will see other paper of me about that, is to look at those off-chain relationship and people. Like when we are talking about off-chain blockchain, there is some humans that deal the blockchain. So there is another quote, but the idea really is to provide this critical perspective that with permission blockchain, if you have into crunch moment a bug, you need to fix error in the code, you have erroneous transaction, you will need a human, a programmer probably, to fix this error. So you need those humans to be sure that the permission blockchain is working. So you're accountable to humans to be sure that your blockchain is working. So and this degree of accountability can be super limited too. So at the end, what we propose with our paper is this idea. So you have the 3 levers. So ledger create visibility, the code incentive people to use well the blockchain to be sure that everyone is accountable, but people write in the code and the code produce the ledger. So this is the relationship we find. So it's not perfect. Like I mentioned, I think there is several risks with permission blockchain, but the idea of the paper is that. And when you have these 3 levers, you will have the better level of accountability into a permission blockchain. Sure.
And the letter I thought we had is the ability to interact with states. I think it's also important. I don't know if it's, I imagine that the letter is still be able to trace that this transaction has been corrected and not, I mean, like, so we're able to see, you know, that there is the correction and be able to trace it as opposed to it being invincible, like you know, eraser, sorry, like your eraser, like when you do the issue and nobody can see the bad mistake, so I can really traceability and what was wrong and what is correct. So mutability.
Yeah, exactly. So we are going to discover, but yeah.
It's supposed to be immutable, but this is. The design of the blockchain will determine whether it is in fact immutable. So the theory of blockchain is one of its properties, which may include sometimes delays, but that's the idea. But there's a number of things that contribute to whether or not it actually is.
But like I mentioned on some of the permission blockchain I got in my sample, some of them are allowed to change it. So it's not really immutable, but you have this idea of making it information, so you can validate for the time. So that's you know, you have a lot of trade-off when you work thinking about the architecture of the blockchain. And I think it's one of the practical implications of this paper is to understand what's happening with permission and with what would be the perfect type of blockchain you need for, you know, your activities or completely different.
Yeah, because I agree that some software literally is able the law to be active. You know, the bad actors can literally do transactions and not be tracked. And you don't this is back to that authentication and so very interesting.
I think there is a lot of opportunity for accounting, but we are really at the beginning in our field. So yeah. Contribution, I'm gonna go fast on that too. I think you get the idea. We extend this idea of accountability in blockchain context, but now with permission blockchain. We add also this idea of the 3 levers that doesn't exist before too, and we respond to the call to have empirical data for research. So this is it. This is the final paper, if you want to read it or not, depends. But this is the last paper. Like I mentioned, it was the last essay of my thesis, so I'm super happy about it for sure, but I'm more than biased. And if you have any question about blockchain, anything, you have a case, you want to have a co-author, whatever, I'm here. These are my information. So if you want to share anything with me or talk with me about blockchain, I'm more than happy about that. So this is it. I think I'm like right on time. It was 1 hour, right? My slides? Sure. You can write me an email. I can. Oh, the paper. Oh, yeah.
To the slides and take a picture of the paper.
Sure.
And we can also, you know, normally we record these sessions. And then we can provide a link to the recording in our blockchain newsletter. So if you're not subscribed to that, you should subscribe. You can Google blockchain ABC and subscribe to our newsletter. And we will put in the replay links to Melissa's papers.
Cool.
The key papers that she has mentioned, which I think you find it fantastic. So I guess, you know, this just remains for me, I'll stand up officially to say, you know, please join me in thanking very much. And this is a great paper. Congratulations on this paper and all of your research. But what I love about it is that there's some really solid empirical research behind the levers that you come up with. I'm excited by the interaction between my models and your levers. So we have to talk.
Sure.
But yeah, I think we've had some really good feedback and questions already, but I'd like to open it up for some larger questions from others in the room. So we're talking, you know, about permission blockchains, which are, you know, have largely been adopted in in the corporate sector as consortia, kind of ecosystems. There's a lot of interest in these because, you know, sometimes these more traditional mainstream players are not so comfortable with the completely permissionless blockchains. So that's the context in which this research is kind of, you know, focusing on. So any thoughts? I think we've done some great work on permission blockchain protocols. Our former postdoc, Mohammed Jalalzai. Yes, go ahead.
I know that we can purchase like software on the computer. When we purchase blockchain, creating a computer, if we want to like play it a little bit or use or a little higher level where commercial knowledge speaking it. I'm just wondering how accessible is it to someone doing
There's a lot of stuff on the internet that you can find to understand, you know, what is the coding, how it's working, what is the fluke and all that stuff. You have videos, it's amazing. To practice it,
or even utilizing yeah, just able to kind of business, maybe that's like traveling more and target is and again, I'm more looking
Sure. Yeah, like most of the permission blockchains, like most of the blockchains have open source code available. So you don't have to purchase anything. You can just, you know, go to the GitHub site, and they often have tutorials that you can work through. So one of the more popular ones has been Hyperledger. Hyperledger Fabric was, you know, one of the earlier permission blockchains to be used. It's less popular now. I think more there's been a turn towards Hyperledger Besu. Would you guys agree with that? I mean, there's a whole bunch of for the permission blockchains. There's Quorum. There's help me out here. Corda. Yes, Corda, Quorum, Hyperledger Besu, Hyperledger Fabric. Hyperledger is supported by the Linux Foundation. So if you go to, you know, if you just Google Hyperledger, you know, Fabric or Besu, you will land on their, you know, GitHub site, and then you'll see there'll be tutorials that you can go through. And you can just play around.
There are also like blockchain as service. They're like IBM provides it. For that, you don't need to like code or like get knowledge of blockchain. You can use it like data file for you. You can actually deploy your application. So IBM provides like blockchain as a service.
And if you want to learn more, we're offering a micro credential at UBC for professionals in blockchain technology. We're just in the process of updating that, and that will be available, but probably not till next summer. And we normally have a blockchain summer institute, again, open to the public, students, everyone. This year it's in Crypto Valley though, in Switzerland. So we're coming back to Vancouver next year. So, you know, if you want to really kind of dig in a little deeper, by then we'll be back here in Vancouver next year with a micro credential that gives you an official UBC credential, and also you know, hands-on training on the technical, more on the technical side, I would say, but we don't just focus on that, because our philosophy at blockchain at UBC is that blockchains are socio-informational technical systems. So we always have to look at them as an integrated whole, looking at people, which is, you know, really great that Mélissa also discovered the same thing. Information, which is the data that you mentioned, you know, how reliable it is, how trustworthy it is, and then the technical components that enable that.
Is it online style?
No, it's in person. It's just in person. We think that that's really most people benefit from that. But yeah, we'll keep you subscribe to the newsletter and you'll learn more. Other, sorry? And Tina, you can see, yeah. And other other questions?
The county relations was actually paid for permission as a public blockchains. It was never paid for permission blockchains. So why did you decide to like do research on permission? Because actually say accountability to transparency because of paying for public blockchains. I think really messy some privacy and scalability they were like private blockchains. So
Well, like I mentioned before, I'm biased because I'm from the management company, so it's very interested what's the inside company and the outside as an opportunity to get company. So I was really testing what is this company implemented blockchain. So that's the reasonable place to be interested. I think also with furnished blockchain, there is a lot of this transparency. It's not understand as the same transparency that you will see in furnishing labs. I'm doing research also in furnishing labs. But the idea was for the supply chain, there is a lot of like that. You know, if you make something visible now that was invisible before, it comes also with accountability. So it was looking at this relationship with blockchain because so that was the explanation. But I know that, you know, by definition, not perfectly this way, but you know, I think we forget about this information. That was the idea to look at this new. The idea is supposed to look at new relationship. Well, sorry, thank you for your great question.
So don't run away, but thank you. Please take time to talk to one another. Before you break up, though, I would like to just say we're lucky in that we have not just one visiting scholar, but we have two visiting scholars. So I'd also like to introduce Professor Mélissa from